So looking back at the UFC 282 main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev ended in a somewhat of a controversial decision that is being debated on even still, where some people believe that Jan Blachowicz should have won the fight and became the champion, or Magomed Ankalaev should have become the champion. Many are also agreeing as what the judge's outcome was, and that was a draw. This is one of 5 times a UFC title fight has ended in a draw. The first one was BJ Penn vs. Kyle Uno back in 2003. Then we had Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard going to a draw in 2011. Tyron Woodley vs. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in 2016. More recently, in 2020, Davidson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, and now Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev is added onto that list. And this one was much harder to score because of 2 different things. Number 1, the first round was such an even round. Watching it live, it was very hard to tell who won it. And number 2, dictating whether the 5th round was a 10-8 for Magomed Ankalaev, watching it live, it definitely looked like it was. Jan really had no moments in that round at all, and he spent the majority of his time on his back. It was the most one-sided round of the whole fight. Well, let's end this debate once and for all. We're going to be looking at that first round to determine who actually won that, which gives us a lot more clearance as to how this fight should have been scored. And according to the judging criteria, damage trumps everything. And looking at the 5th round, you're also going to bring in effective grappling, which is pretty much the fighter who got into certain positions, went for submissions, went for big takedowns, or whatever it is to contribute to a finish. So the closer the guy gets to a finish is really the guy that's going to be winning these rounds. And let's look at that first round, man. Jan Blachowicz starts the round by landing 3 leg kicks on Magomed. 2 of them are going to be light attacks, but the one in between, the second leg kick, we're going to count as a medium, as it took away Magomed's stance, definitely showed more impact of the other 2. Then Jan continues his attack and lands a jab to the body, which gets retaliated by Magomed's front kick to the body that showed a decent amount of impact as well. We're going to count this one as a medium attack. Now Magomed goes forward and throws a jab to the body, and they both exchange on each other. Jan attacks with yet another leg kick, but he gets met down the center with a left straight. That had a pretty good amount of impact as well. Now Magomed has a bit of momentum on his side. He's landing some pretty clean shots on Jan, and Jan starts moving away from Magomed's aggression and counters him with a jab. Another leg kick from Jan Blachowicz, met by a front kick to the body from Magomed that pushes him away. There is an argument you could make this a medium attack, but we'll look back at it if it made a difference in the round. So then Jan tries to get one back for himself. They get into a bit of an exchange. A bunch of punches miss, but Magomed lands the single strike in that exchange, a counter right hook but lands with his wrist. Not that much impact in the blow. Jan continues his aggression, wings in a big left hook that just grazes Magomed, has no real big impact there. Continuing his aggression, Magomed now counters him with yet another right hook that lands with the side of his fist. Magomed adds on a side kick to the leg that seems to buckle Jan's stance a bit, definitely showed it has some impact in that blow, and then Jan retaliates with a leg kick of his own, then adds on a jab to the chest, and Magomed gets a jab off there of his own that lands on Jan, but at the very end of his punch, but it sets up a combination for Magomed, landing a left straight that also lands at the end of the punch, but doesn't have a great amount of impact as Jan is moving away from it. Another jab lands for Magomed, and then Jan goes to the leg, and this is very interesting because of the technique that he used here. So he kicks on the inside of Magomed's leg, and it actually is a very big leg kick because you could tell from the damage from the blow, Magomed did not like this at all. And notice how Jan lands it. He doesn't land with his shin. He doesn't land with the top of his foot. He lands with the side of his foot right into the inside of the shin. Very interesting that I don't really see anybody else throwing a leg kick like that. After the leg kick, Jan tries to add on a big right overhand that lands partially behind the guard. Doesn't really get off much. Then Jan gets really aggressive, gets in the inside there, and gets yet again countered by a check right hook from Magomed. Jan does eat the blow, doesn't really affect him that much, and as Magomed is trying to move away, Jan touches him with a left straight. Body kick from Jan Blachowicz that gets partially blocked, returned by a body jab from Magomed, and he conditions Jan a bit and jabs up top afterward. Front kick to the body from Magomed, this really didn't have much impact as it gets parried right when it touches him. A return body jab from Jan Blachowicz lands. Magomed returns with 2 jabs up top, so there's a lot of jabs getting exchanged between the two, and definitely not showing a great amount of damage between the two fighters. Then notice this again. Jan throws a body kick. This is a round body kick. It looks like a push kick to the body from the image, but no, he brings it around, but he's landing with the side of his foot. It's very awkward, but this one didn't have much impact. It didn't affect Magomed much. It kind of just bounces off Magomed and he just marches forward. You didn't really see much damage from the blow. Then Magomed goes forward and throws a big left overhand, and Jan brings his hand backwards, grazing a hammer fist on Magomed as he moves away. Then we get to another medium attack of the round. Magomed lands a front kick to the body that pushes Jan back into the fence, and you could definitely see some amount of impact from the blow. Then they exchange on each other. Jan just touches Magomed with a body jab, and Magomed, it's hard to tell from the camera angle, but it looks like he lands another front kick to the body. From the camera angle, it looks like it lands to the cup. It looks like it's a low blow, but Jan didn't react like it did. He gets hit by it, his body goes back, and he just continues to fight. And the ref has a pretty good view of the kick. Then we get into a good exchange from Jan Blachowicz, where he rips up a right hand to the body and actually delivers with a good amount of impact, gets Magomed to curl over a little bit from the punch, and then he lands a slapping left hook over the top that doesn't have much power on the shot, doesn't really affect Magomed, as right after, Jan takes a push kick to the body, a leg kick from Jan that gets checked, and the round ends with the very last strike being Magomed just touching Jan with a front kick to the body. And that's it for the first round. So by tallying up all the strikes and the damage, it's pretty much even. They each landed 21 strikes, 18 to 17 light for Jan Blachowicz, and 4 to 3 medium for Magomed Ankalaev. Not a clear difference. If you want to go down to the exact integers, Magomed caused a little bit more damage, so off of that alone, you could give it to Magomed, but if we're going to give some leniency here, it's going to go down to who was the aggressor in the round, and that was 100% Magomed Ankalaev, who was effectively throwing more strikes, trying to land with the bigger punches, and backing up Jan Blachowicz because of his attacks. So the first round, you're going to have to give to Magomed Ankalaev, both in damage or if you want to go to effective aggressiveness. And that would pretty much give him the fight because he won the 4th, he definitely won the 5th. And if you want to go down the road of him winning the 5th round by 10-8, which you can absolutely do, I don't think it would be necessary to go and break down every single strike the guy threw because Jan barely landed anything. He was on his back for over 4 minutes of that round. Magomed had the Dagestani handcuff, consistently passing the guard, landing big ground and pound shots. It was 100% a 10-8 round due to the definition given in the scoring criteria. And here's the definition. Quote, a 10-8 round in MMA is where one fighter wins the round by a large margin. A 10-8 round in MMA is not the most common score a judge will render, but is absolutely essential to the evolution of the sport and the fairness to the fighters that judges understand and effectively utilize a score of 10-8. A score of 10-8 does not require a fighter to dominate their opponent for 5 minutes of a round. Magomed almost did that actually, he almost dominated for 5 minutes. The score of 10-8 is utilized by a judge when the judge sees verifiable actions on the part of either fighter. Judges shall always give a score of 10-8 when the judge has established that one fighter has dominated the action of a round, had duration of the domination, and also impacted their opponent with either effective strikes or effective grappling maneuvers that have diminished the abilities of their opponent. Off of that alone, that gives the round to Magomed Ankalaev. Just off of this alone. Judges must consider giving the score of 10-8 when a fighter shows dominance in a round even though no impactful scoring against the opponent was achieved. MMA is an offensive-based sport. No scoring is given for defensive maneuvers. Using smart tactical sound defense allows the fighter to stay in the fight and to be competitive. Dominance of a round can be seen in striking when the losing fighter continually attempts to defend, with no counters or reaction taken when openings present themselves. Dominance in the grappling phase can be seen by fighters taking dominant positions in a fight and utilizing those positions to attempt fight-ending submissions or attacks. If a fighter has little to no offensive output during a 5-minute round, it should be normal for a judge to consider awarding the loser fighter 8 points instead of 9. Judges must consider giving the score of 10-8 when a fighter impacts their opponent significantly in a round, even though they did not dominate the action. Effectiveness in striking or grappling, which leads to diminishing of the fighter's energy, confidence, abilities, and spirit. All of these come as a direct result of negative impact. When a fighter is hurt with strikes showing lack of control or ability, these are defining moments in a fight. If a judge sees that a fighter has been significantly damaged in the round, the judge should consider the score of 10-8. Unquote. Off of this alone, we know 100% Magomed Ankalaev got a 10-8 in that 5th round. So, did the judges get the scoring right for this fight? They did not. The correct score should look like 49-47 in favor of Magomed Ankalaev, who won the 1st, 4th, and 5th rounds, giving the 5th round a 10-8 score. And that should lead to Magomed being the light heavyweight champion of the division, and we would not be getting this Glover-Jamal Hill fight. It would be Magomed versus Glover Teixeira instead. And perhaps you would have Jan Blachowicz fight the winner of Anthony Smith versus Jamal Hill. But I'm not going to go and say this was a robbery. I'm not going to fault any of the judges because that first round was razor thin. It was super close, but breaking it down, the accurate decision should go to Magomed Ankalaev.